All right, welcome back. So in the last video, we were talking about how we can make a plot that looks like this. Now, if you're, just coming off that video, you'll notice that we've got some extra stuff in this code. I'm going to come back to this. I promise. I promise. This little thing right here. I'm going to make a whole video of just how to polish up, how to polish up plots. Okay, because this idea here goes for all plots. Now, we just made a box plot and we made 20K, and then we need to make some histograms, right? Histograms are great because they show you, here we go, they show you the shape and spread of continuous data, okay? Or at least numeric data. And we can kind of see, we can kind of see some examples here, okay? Essentially what they do is that they just group ranges of values into what are called bins, and then it just counts the frequency or the occurrence of that range, okay? Now, if you took 2050 from me, you'll remember that you're kind of given the number of bins you should be using. We're going to be getting a little bit more finicky with that because, well, it's totally subjective of how you want to, how many people essentially you want to put into boxes. Whatever, it's no big deal, but we do have some just some care to kind of take there. So we've got some basic histograms here. Let me zoom in and let me actually show one thing. Now, I'm not going to test you on this because I think it's kind of bull, but this is good to know. Now, we're all pretty used to seeing distributions that look like this, data that kind of looks like this, totally normal, right? Capital N normal, where it's kind of symmetric. It's got, two even sides. It's got nice tapered tails, this whole thing. Now, one thing that's really weird, and to be totally honest, I'm pretty sure they just made a mistake when they were naming these things way back in the day, 100 years ago or whatever. But histograms that are kind of squished over to the right are actually left skewed. And histograms that are squished over to the left are actually right skewed. Now, the way that I think of this is that there is something in the left pushing everything. And over here, there's something in the right pushing everything to the left. Now, I'm not going to test you on that, but it is good to know that this kind of language here is not totally consistent with our language in English. And that's just what happens when a bunch of nerds do this kind of stuff. Anyway, that's their fault, not mine. Okay, so we can use base R to make a histogram. It does require some kind of mixed notation with the $sign and quotation marks. Not totally cool with that. Whatever, it's not, not totally helpful. So let's go ahead and just do it in ggplot. So let me clear out this plot. I'm going to use that same symbol that's here and up here, right? If I use the broom, it's going to ask me, sure, I want to do that. And I say yes. Very cool. Okay. So let me give myself some more space here. Let's make a histogram. We're going to be using ggplot as well. So with all of that, let's just get into it. So the first thing we want to do, like always, is specify our base layer. So we're going to be using data, our data, and we have it called muscle. And then we need an aesthetic. Now, here's the kind of funky thing about histograms, is that you actually only need to specify one thing for the histogram, okay? And it's the thing that you want to see the distribution of, okay? So in that case, we're doing, I think it's for age. Yeah, it's for age. So we want to put that on the bottom. Let me kind of go back just to see. And this is what we're going to be recreating here. So age is on the bottom, right? So that's going to be our x-axis. Frequency here, we don't need to specify that. We do not need to specify that. It'll do that on its own when we specify that we want a histogram, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that means that we just need to put x equals, okay, and we want age. And if I just run this, what's going to happen? It's boring, right? But it's just plotting age down here as the base layer, right? With nothing here on the y, because we didn't specify anything on the y. Just out of curiosity, if I were to not do anything, yeah. So if you don't specify a single thing in the aesthetics, it just does a blank thing, a little blank base layer. But no worries, no worries. So we want age, okay? And what's the next thing we want? Well, we're making a histogram, right? We want to kind of see the overall shape of the data, We want to see the overall shape of the data. So what we're going to do, we add the old plus sign here, making sure that we're matching parentheses, right? And if I put the cursor over this one, it does that. It highlights the matching parenthesis. And if I put it here, perfect, sweet. So I'm going to do a new line, and I'm going to do geom, because we know that's the next thing that we want. And we can just scroll through and find what we want for now. And I know that I want a histogram. Booyah, geom histogram. And if I were to just to run this, look at that. So a few things happen, right? The first thing is, again, I ran this without moving the parenthesis down there. You don't need to do that because spacing doesn't matter. And then let me zoom this in. Hopefully we can see this. What is happening? What is happening? Well, we have our x-axis here, and it's age, it's years, and we have counts here on the on the y-axis, right? So 0 count, 1 count, 2 occurrences, 3 occurrences, so on and so forth, right? What the hell? What is happening? Here's what's happening. This looks gross, right? This doesn't really tell us the shape of anything. We've got a lot of spaces here. We've got a lot of weird kind of like 1 counts and no counts and whatever. This is not helpful, right? Let's take a look in the console. Stat bin using bins equals 30, whatever. This is a little cryptic, kind of, but this is very nice, right? Pick a better value with bin width. Well, we didn't even specify a value. We just decided to go with the default. Okay, we decided to go with the default bins. Okay, so let me zoom back in here. This right here, this little line, this little kind of chunk, that's what's known as a bin, and that's just grabbing the age ranges from, I suppose, 53 till maybe 52 to 53. So really not much. That means here there are 4 people that range in ages from 52 to 53, right? That's not very helpful. And then the same can be said for the next and the next and the next. So we're kind of grouping people and putting them into these bins, okay, based on their age. Not helpful, right? Having 30 of these bins, if we were to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it would be 30, right? Even the blank spaces are considered bins, okay? So what we need to do is specify a better bin width. We need to specify a better range of values to throw in into each bin to make them a little bit wider. Now, how do we know? How do we know what's a good bin size? Well, let me go back to the old PowerPoint here. Let me show you. Let me zoom in here, okay? How to choose histogram bin size. Now, the default is different depending on what software you're using. Sometimes it's the Sturge's rule where you go 1 plus 3.322 log of the number of things that you have. Not very helpful. Doan's rule where you have the log of base 2 to the number of things that you have plus 1 plus blah, 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 blah. And look at all this math you have to do. Scott's rule with 3.49 times the standard deviation of blah, 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 blah. Here's what I say. Screw all of these other rules. What I say is just do whatever looks best. Okay, do whatever gets the point across. You can trust in defaults sometimes, but oftentimes it's not very helpful. Okay, so ggplot uses a default of 30 bins. If you use base R, the histogram function, it's going to use one of these things. Here's what I say. Again, just do whatever shows your story the best, because that's what we're doing. We're telling a story. We're trying to convey some information here. Okay, so how do I specify the bin width? Do I put it up in here in the base layer? No, I don't put it in the base layer because this is just saying what I want on the axis, okay, and sort of in the background. I want to adjust the actual histogram. And if I come up here to the first open parenthesis and hit tab, it kind of shows me all the options for arguments that I can put in there. Orientation, show legend, whatever, na.rm, na, remove missing values, whatever. Okay, so bins and bin width, which one do I want to do? The sort of error message, the warning message down here tells me I want to, adjust the bin width. I don't want to do that. I actually just want to adjust the bins because that's going to be easier for me. Okay. So if I select that, put it down here on a new line. Again, I don't need to put it on a new line, but I just am for organization's sake. If I do one bin, what is that going to look like? It's just going to be a box, right? So let me kind of show you what bins do. Okay. So what this is saying is that we have 60 observations. Our count here is 60, meaning that all of the values are being thrown into this box and we're counting 60 of them. If I were to do, not 12, if I were to do 2, I also missed a parenthesis there. If I were to do 2, okay, we can kind of see where this is going, right? So it's binning things from age 20 to about age, I think 59, and then binning things from 60 up to our maximum value, which is like 88 or something like that. So we're then saying that there's like 21 or 22 people that are from ages 20 to 59 and like 45 from 60 to the maximum age here. Okay. Sorry, it looks like I saved something accidentally. Okay, there we go. Sweet. And then if I were to go 3, you can already see where this is going, right? We've got from this range, from the lowest age to about 44, we got 10 of those people. And then from 44 up to about 26 or so, we've got some other, sorry, 44 to about 65, 63, we've got about 25, 26 people, so on and so forth, right? Now, this is, again, not showing us the overall shape and distribution. If I were to go back to 30, that's our original thing. So we've got 60 observations. I'm going to kind of tool around and maybe say, let's do 15 bins. No, gosh. Let's do 15 bins. Okay, that's not the most helpful. That's not the most helpful. That might still be too many. That might be too many. So maybe 10. This is all up to you as well. This is all up to you. Even then, this is not showing me so much of the shape. I'm still being a little bit too granular with how I am characterizing the age range that I want. Okay, maybe let's try, oh man, I don't know, 6? Okay, there we go. So this looks a little bit better, I think. This shows that the distribution has more sort of younger, quote unquote, younger people, and then another kind of little hump here of people from like 65 to about 70, right? Again, only eyeballing. We're not trying to make any conclusions with this. We're just trying to support any conclusions we make in the future, okay? That's what figures do. Maybe if I went down to 5. Cool. Now, here's an interesting thing. I made these histograms, both of these histograms, totally legitimately, okay? But just going from 5 bins to 6 bins shows a totally different shape, okay? In this case, with 6 bins, we have a sort of right skew distribution, kind of. With 5, though, well, we kind of have more of a left skewed distribution, right? So something over here on the left is pushing everything over. That's kind of a different story, right? That's kind of a different story. Again, totally up to you how you want to go about reporting this. Some people will do, I think 10 isn't okay. It's okay. Here's the deal, though. Totally up to you which one you want to report. Of course, this is something you never want to report, and I'm going to do 50 bins. This is also something you don't want to report. This is not helpful, right? If I were to do 60 bins, the number of things that we have, we're going to get some really weird looking things, which is not helpful, right? This does not really show us too much information, at least about the shape and spread of the data. Okay, so in the end, we'll stick with 8 for now. Now, here's another thing, and I'll show you this before I move on to the next video, or at least a future video for how to kind of tweak these things. Let me show you something that makes life just a little bit easier, just a little bit easier. If I were to come in here and say, okay, I want to actually see the breaks in here. I want to see sort of where the bins are instead of having this sort of this mess, this sort of vague thing, this vague shape here. if I were to specify color, okay, and I can do any color that I want. ggplot's really great because it's got a ton of color options. Maybe just if I put in, of course, they need to be in quotation marks because we don't have it saved anywhere. This is totally kind of from the outside. If I were to do that and run this, check it out. We get some nice lines showing, which I think is great. And then the last thing, here's what I like to do. The fill. This fill argument will fill in the color of in between these dark lines. And I like, my favorite color in R, and honestly maybe in general, is this light blue color. And if I run that, oh, look at that. That is so nice, right? So anyway, with all this being said, if we use 8 bins, we can see that there's a pretty consistent measure of ages in our data, right? With the exception of sort of some older people, not older, the sort of 60, maybe 55 to about 65. There's more of that age range. But aside from that, we've got a pretty consistent sort of sample as far as ages go. Let me do one last thing. Let me give the old thing classic. Booyah. Look at that. That looks pretty decent, I think. Okay. So with all of that, just as a little recap, we've got our base layer here. And then we've got our histogram, just one single thing that we need to put in there. We specified 8 bins. Again, you may want to specify 7 or 6 or whatever, right? It does not matter, as so long as it shows, at least a little bit of the story that you're telling. You can get very subjective with how you make histograms, and most plots too, but histograms in particular. Okay, and then we added the theme classic just to kind of clean things up a little bit. If I were to, I know I'm talking so much about just tweaking and tweaking. If I were to use the black and white one, I believe that it gets rid. Oh no, it doesn't. Cool. So if you're into this, this works. If you like the classic, that works too. Okay, and with all of that being said, I will see ya in the next video.